fleurs, des forêts. Au-dessus de tout, il y a l'amour que nous portent les gens de la planète.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Sorry, I
Hold
can't
on.
lower the volume and behind the scenes stuff. We're new here.
It's my first
Recording
day.
in progress.
Recording in progress. Everyone, thanks for being here and being recorded. I appreciate it.
You are under surveillance.
You were under surveillance as your FBI agent actually recording this entire podcast.
I'm your FBI agent. It's me. I just got fired.
General Smitty, welcome on in. Panda, good morning. Ben, good morning. Chicago, good morning. Race Crown, good morning. Elizabeth's in here. Good morning, Elizabeth. Hi. Agent Skills.
Hi.
Parrot. Connor, how we doing? Hi, champ. Mark. Suddenly one of my 400 tabs started making noise and scared the shit out of me, but here I am. No, I appreciate that. What's up, Marco? Hello, hello, hello. Ash has an exciting, expensive new background. I do.
It is beautiful.
Let
Look
me,
at that thing.
Let me move over it. Let me skedaddle here. I don't know how to do this.
Feast your eyes.
Feast your eyes. There's obviously a lot more to it, and it's carbon fiber, so it's pretty light. But ooh,
Wow.
wow,
Wow.
ooh. I gotta like hoist it up properly and like hang it up. But for now, it's just gonna be right behind me. Yeah, I realized the
good
driver's
vibe.
signed down here, so like that's where all the interesting stuff is of this.
Yeah.
For those of you who are listening, obviously, or if the producer even puts this in here, champ. This is a custom NASCAR Cup Series Mustang Dark Horse hood from the Ford Performance season launch, and they had all their Ford Performance drivers sign it. So we have like Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, but then we have the folks from Daytona 24, the sports car drivers. We have James Dean, who's Formula Drift, a whole bunch of other people from Dakar and etc. You may or may not know.
That's awesome.
NHRA
I like that
as
they
well.
got like the full group.
Yeah, we got all the homies in here. She took a picture of a bunch of them, and she's like, we'll get you the names of everyone who signed it, just in case you didn't know who it is. So that should be really, really fun. Oh my god, Kitty. Which cat is this?
This is Gator. He's being really annoying this morning.
Classic.
So I'm just gonna hold him here. Maybe he'll shut the fuck up.
Keyword is maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Probably not. He just needs some love. He really wants to. So I've got a new mouse pad, and he's been obsessed. He thinks that this is his place. Like I bought this for him as a bed. So I don't get to use my mouse pad anymore because he just lays on my desk on it, and I have it over here. I have a little like portable desk now to record on, and now he's eating my fucking headphone cord. Can you not be a menace for 32 seconds? Jeez Louise.
Can you buy him another mouse pad and put him on there?
I think I'm just gonna. I have all of the stuff to crochet some blankets, and I keep meaning to like make them little beds because I made one and never did another one. So I think it's about time.
Did you out crochet yourself with that one bed?
No, I just did it, and it was. I tried to. It was the first time I tried to like crochet in the round, which means make a circle, and I did a really, really bad job. And then I tried to save it by like turning it into a border around it, and that turned out really bad. And then I had made it for Slider, and she never used it, and it took until we had our fourth cat, AJ, for anyone to decide they ever wanted to sit in it. So it was just kind of like I did it for no reason for 2 years, and then we got the cat that liked it. So now I'm like, well, maybe I should consider treating them to something nice.
Kitty. Car hoods and cats. What else could we ask for it? That's what I'm saying. We're just talking about cars and cats. I still think, chat, I think this is still $1 million idea that no one will do because I guess it's not $1 million, but besides the point. I want a race series to do like rescue animals and like the places they race, like with the animal center or control, whoever partner with it, and then pictures of their cars. Because I think it'd be like felines and Ferraris, or you could do like cats and whatever, and like puppies and like whatever, the PPG Joseph Newgarden number 2 car.
That would be amazing.
Like Joseph Newgarden is holding a bunch of puppies, and they can just sell it as a calendar. It would just be like an IndyCar branded calendar, but with puppies and kittens.
Mr. IndyCar, we have an idea.
Miss Big Rush, look.
Big Raj, put your guys in some photos with cars.
Replace
Cats.
the Grid Girls and Cars calendar with cars and cats. That's what I'm saying. I think it'd be
that's
cuter.
a great idea.
Because then the kids can actually have it, and it's workplace appropriate. And we love rescue animals and puppies and kittens. and then old ones too. They're all dogs of all ages are puppies, and all cats of all ages are little kitties. And I think it'd be adorable, especially on a car. Porsches and pups.
That rips. That idea goes so hard. I think we need to make that happen.
You're telling me Daytona 24, there's no animal shelter in Daytona that would just bring a bunch of animals over for them to hang out with the drivers one day and then get their photos taken with the car? Come on.
I was going to say, especially during like all of the roar, there's so much time where they could do that, where there's not loud cars happening, which could hurt their poor little eardrums.
Yeah. Humane Society, hit us up. No, we have to hit them up. Porsches
Maybe
and
if we
Boss,
just speak it into the universe, someone will hear it and make it happen.
Meows and Mercedes. Yeah, I'm hoping someone's listening and you can just take that idea and run with it because that'd be adorable.
We have 6 cats, so we have enough to make
That's true.
2 cats per month per calendar. So I think we could do that. Chicago GP. I think that's a great idea.
The Black Sox get some more cats. They can make their own calendar. I love it. Would Gator be Mardi Gras, I guess, for the month of March?
Would Gator be Mardi Gras? Would you be March?
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Yeah. Penske Puppers, Cat Ganassi Racing. Well, yeah, we know he doesn't like dogs, so. What is a TCAM if not for the best cat tree perch in the world? That's what I'm saying. Jeff goes, I do not have the infrastructure. You guys can easily make a cat calendar. You just like hang up a white sheet. Or whatever color you have. You can just edit it and post.
Yeah. I have Canva. I could make this happen.
Yeah, please. It'd be fine. All right. Elizabeth, anything happen to you this week? That we
Did anything happen to me?
Had you have a good weekend?
Not really. I wrote about race cars, so I had several long days. Chris several years ago bought me it's like a little tray for your laptop to use if you're like sitting in bed. And I put that on the couch and it transformed my motorsport reporting experience. I've had this thing for like 5 years and have never busted it out until he told me, hey, idiot, you should probably consider using that because you have it. And it was wonderful. Worked great. 10 out of 10. Highly recommend if you do work on your couch. That's all I got.
Elizabeth has finally functioned into a working from her couch person while watching motorsports. What did I do this weekend? What did we do? Oh, there's a soccer game. Oh, you guys are going to love this. Okay. So I need to always preface my stories with I'm a New York City sports fan because I feel that just adds like a lot of context to what happened online. So, I am pro heckling and booing, and like I hate when people in motorsports are like, we should be nicer. I'm like, we should be meaner.
Get over yourselves.
Get over yourselves. We should make drivers cry. No, that's a little too far, but you know what I'm saying. Pro the booing. I'm gonna boo Max. That sounds fun. I don't even have anything against Max, but I'm like, we're booing. I'm in. Sounds great. And so, yeah, there were Atlanta fans because it was a Charlotte game. Apparently, Atlanta and Charlotte has a rivalry because the cities are close by each other, and, like, that's a thing, even though we're both relatively newer soccer, football clubs, whatever. Anyhoodles, I'm sitting in the Charlotte bar by our house, and there's Atlanta fans walking by, so I'm heckling because that's what I do. And I'm like, oh, I should tweet about this. I'm like, oh, I'm pro-heckling. And one of the heckle things you say to Atlanta fans, whether it's Atlanta Braves or Atlanta FC or the Falcons, is like, Sherman should have finished the job. I know the history. Sherman went through the Carolinas, but the whole thing's about Atlanta, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, someone from the Atlanta sports fandom got upset at that, which, yes, obviously, if you're heckling, people are going to get upset. So we went back and forth for a little bit because he's like, you don't know your history. And I was like, I'm fucking drunk. I don't care. I was like, I'm not a soccer fan. So we're on Twitter, right? We're going back and forth. And then he stops. And then I go to the game. First half is fine. We go to the second half. We score 2 goals. The first goal, I get back on my phone and I'm like, hey, did you see that? The second goal, I reply to what I just said and I go, hey, did you see that second goal? And then after we win, I said, hey, did you see that win? Because that is me. Obviously, if we lost, I couldn't have been that sassy. But I'm really glad that we won because then that just perpetuates my New York fandom type harder. Anyhoodles, he's like, well, we didn't have 5 defenders on the field or like our starters were out or something. And I just didn't reply. Today I posted a photo of my Ford hood. This man comments and he goes, oh, does that fit in your Prius? And I was like, no, I have a Tacoma. And he goes, oh, that's so cool. And like starts chatting. And I was like, oh, did you realize in the midst of me shitting on you for your fandom that I like cool things? It was a very interesting turn of events from like, we are shitting on each other sports wise to, oh, actually, we can have a conversation about something else. And I'm like, that's what sports
so
fandom
funny.
is about. We're gonna, just shit on each other tweet by tweet, hour by hour. Did you see that goal? Did you see that other one? Yeah, shut up. You don't know anything. No, you don't know anything. 24 hours later. Oh, that's a really cool car hood. Where'd you get it? So
I love that. Sports fans.
That's what we need to do in
something...
motorsports, and we don't have that. People get too butthurt when we correctly analyze their drivers, and then when someone just dislikes their driver, and they're like, oh, I don't like so-and-so. People are like, how dare you? Gosh, someone in our Discord was telling me the story about how someone disliked Charles Leclerc, and like a Charles Leclerc Discord went into like their Discord and like started brigading. And I was like, what is happening here? This is wild.
So when Antonio Giovinazzi won Le Mans, I said Antonio Giovinazzi has done more for Ferrari than Charles Leclerc ever has. Because I thought that was a really funny joke, and I thought people would understand that I'm joking.
No.
The Charles Leclerc girlies got a hold of that one and were like insulting my haircut and telling me I was my millennial ass forehead. And they were like, you Carlos Sainz fans. And I was like, I'm not even a Carlos Sainz fan. I like Charles Leclerc. I just thought it was a good joke.
I remember when I complimented Lewis Hamilton and Carlos Sainz 2 years ago on their runs, and then Charles Leclerc fans were like upset in my comments that I complimented Carlos and not Charles. And they were like, Carlos did all this. Charles was much better. How dare you? And I was like, you can make your own tweet. I was like, this is ridiculous. My favorite thing is to shit post and mute. You can mute notifications on your post, and I'm just like,
bye. Into the ether. Not my business now.
I did such a funny Pope joke for IndyCar afterwards that I didn't realize it was actually really good, but people got upset at me that are super Catholic. So I understand the Pope wasn't doing well, but he is doing well. He tweeted on Sunday that he thanks everyone for their prayers. He's doing much better. He's off the ventilator and he's recovering. And I was like, oh, I can use this meme of like, like the priest holds like the body of Christ and like does the thing. And I was like, oh, but you like switched it out for the IndyCar logo? Because I did that for IMSA and people loved it. So I was like, oh, let me do this for the IndyCar logo because I think we had a really good race. People were upset. They're like, how dare you? The Pope is not doing well. I was like, no, the Pope's back. IndyCar's back. This meme hits. You guys have no sense of humor.
Nofun.com. That's what that is.
I was like, this is so perfect. I mean, this man is feeling better and he's back. He's off the ventilator. He's tweeting. He's doing great. IndyCar's doing great. This is a perfectly timed meme. And you guys just don't understand nuance. And I am upset that you're upset at me because this is so good.
People, no sense of humor.
No sense of humor.
Kids these days, that's what I say.
Someone said I should go disrespect the Quran next. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that absolutely incorrectly because he spelled it with a K. Quran next, because I'm disrespecting the Pope. And I was like, I think the Pope would actually find this kind of funny.
And if he doesn't, fuck him.
Yeah, I think the Pope would see that and be like, I don't care. Like, this doesn't affect me, nor is this like sacrilegious. Like, I think I'm fine.
I'm an equal opportunity memist.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty easy. If you're alive enough to tweet, you can be the subject of bits. That's the rule. Thank you, Mark.
If I am not alive enough to tweet, please make me the subject of a bit. I don't care. You guys have my permission.
Some people got so upset. I thought the Pope died after I tweeted about that. So I Googled it. And the man's fine. He's still fine. He's still doing great for all I know. And like, but people were so upset. I was like, oh yeah, this is partly timed if he passed away. Like, yes, I understand. But he didn't. He's actually back.
Yeah.
So was IndyCar. Ridiculous.
We're all back.
We're all back. The Pope, me, racing. What's up, Lurts? Shall I get into rapid fire news, Elizabeth?
Let's rapid that fire.
We did get notes from our producer
news.
that we're not rapid enough for rapid fire news. This is not part in the interruption. I mean, it could be. I can interrupt Elizabeth more than I already do, if that's what people really want.
I can't interrupt you. I just can't do it.
You should do it.
I should do it, but I can't do it.
Yes, first I went to the Ford Performance Center. It was really, really cool. I did put a silent auction Ford Performance season launch for this hood, side by Ford Performance drivers that's behind me. I put a bid in. I have a video of me saying, night's young, might as well do it. It's for a good cause. I'm not going to win. Anyway, I picked it up yesterday because I did win. And I got a really cool tour from the Ford Performance Center. I had a tour with Matt Todd. He was like a little late, which I was like, you're working. You don't need to apologize. And he's like, yeah, but we're talking about COTA. And like, we got to figure out what's going on. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Like, you guys have to do that. Like, you have to figure out why these, like, the team car, like all the cars that have Ford, or the teams that have Ford, excuse me, what's going on there, the aero package, or what Toyota did better. So he's like, yeah, we figure that out, and we work on the previous race till about like Tuesday afternoon. And then we focus on, I mean, there's people who's always focusing on the next race, but like he's really focusing on what's going on, especially when teams want answers or questions or whatever. And then Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday morning, they focus on the rest of the week and just work with the teams and stuff. So I got to see some cool stuff. Got to see the sims. That was really awesome. They have these crazy simulators for their...
Are they in like a black room, or
they're like in a
are they
warehouse room. It's not really
Yeah.
it's not really a, there's no like, it's not blacked out or anything. It's
Gotcha.
like, it looks like a gray warehouse room. They put a bunch of screens around. It's not completely 360, but it's like a little past 180. And so Cole Custer was there for Cup. It was interesting because they actually have a camera inside too and stuff, and they hear the drivers and whatever. So Cole was doing a run, and then he's like, yeah, like gave some feedback, and they're like, give us a second, did something on the computer, and they're like, okay, go again. So they're like testing a bunch of stuff out and getting like driver feedback. So truck guys usually come for Monday, Tuesday. I got to meet Ben Rhodes, which was really cool.
That's nice.
He was so chill. He has to fly from Kentucky to Charlotte every Monday to do the simulator work. And I was like, oh, you must have good miles. And he's like, no, I use skip lagged. So I don't get any airline miles. And I was like, Ben, you gotta, it's much cheaper if you use skip lag. But I was like, Ben, you gotta get those airline miles. If you do this so often, you can be like first class on American every single time.
You could be getting free vacations to wherever.
Yeah, so I think it's funny that it's just like Ben Rhodes in the morning coming to Charlotte and like a bunch of finance guys. And then it was Harrison Burton, the Xfinity. I'm not gonna say what track it was. I don't know how much I can share. So I was like, well, what details do I leave out in case like Toyota's listening? But what I did learn is that I mean this isn't new, but I guess I didn't realize that NASCAR did this or didn't think that they did this. So Formula One's really popular that photographers of, let's say, Red Bull are taking photos of all other cars, especially if the car is being lifted up by a crane. All of a sudden you see everyone's camera lenses pointed at it to see what they're
You
doing.
want that
and
under
stuff.
tray, baby.
They did the same thing for NASCAR. So they take a lot of photos. They come in live to whomever's working from wherever. Some people are working from the Ford Performance Center. Some people are just working from home. He's like, because the connectivity is so good. And we do have a Ford Performance Center hauler that goes with them. We got people at the track, but he's like, I can be home. I can literally be wherever. And I have everything that I need because of how good our system is. And like everything comes in live in seconds. So we had their photographers taking photos of other cars in certain parts of the track and like learning about it and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's
awesome.
kind of cool. And he's like, we're like learning real time, like what Toyota has on us or something like that. I was like, oh, sick.
Smart.
So I got to see other parts and stuff. And then they use Penske's wind tunnel, which I thought was interesting. I was like, oh, you can just up the road, just go on in. So
Pop over.
They had a Martinsville clock. They had all their championship trophies from NHRA Cup. They had one more. Was it Xfinity? I think it was Xfinity. So, or trucks. Sorry, guys. That was pretty cool. Everyone was really nice. Everyone was really informative. I asked a lot of questions, and they answered all of them. And then I took my hood, and I brought it home. The end.
Exciting.
Yeah, as an airliner, be super wary of connecting frequent flyer accounts to anything related to skip lag. Yeah, so if you're not aware of what skip lag is, it's a website that is 100% allowed. Airlines just don't like it. So essentially, it finds you, let's say you're flying to Charlotte, it'll find you a flight that's like Kentucky to Charlotte to Florida, but you essentially don't go on your Charlotte to Florida flight. Like you transfer in Charlotte, you just don't get on the next flight. So you can't check any bags. You can only bring carry-ons. And airlines don't like it when you do that. So you can't connect any frequent flyer accounts and stuff like that. And you just shouldn't make it obvious because airlines will retaliate against you because there's no rules about that. Because they can be like, oh, they can make up something where they don't prefer you to be on their airline. So just be really careful of it. But yeah, if you use it from time to time, it is cheaper, supposedly. It is. I've used it a couple times. But yeah,
I don't have the balls to do that. I've thought about it, and then I like get freaked out because I'm like, what if Mr. Airline cancels me and I never get to fly again?
Yeah, it was interesting to learn about his flights from Kentucky and stuff. I think Frankie Muniz, for another example, was I think his family's based in Phoenix, wife and kids, I believe, and he just has an RV when he comes to the Ford Performance Center that he stays in, like one of those driver RVs that he just stays in when he needs to do testing and stuff. So it's really fun. Oh, I also got free posters, but they're over there.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I know. First of all, they smell great. But it's like Road America, Sebring and stuff. It's of the Ford cars. So I thought that was really cool. I got a Le Mans poster of their GT3s and stuff. So I thought it was really fun. So thanks, Ford. Not sponsored. I paid for this hood. This is not gifted. This is mine. I donated. Excuse me. I donated for this hood. So yeah, thanks, Ford. It's fun because when people don't know who you are, like I don't think the guy giving us a tour realized it. He just know I like got this from an auction. So he's like assuming I have money to spend, which I mean I did, but I'm not like a sponsor or anything. And it was like, oh, do I treat you like a sponsor? It's just like no. I'm just a dude. Just a person.
Just a little guy.
Ben Rhodes is like, who are you? Will you give me money? If I yeah. Ben was nice, but it was funny. It was just like, how do we treat you? It was like, no, like a normal person. Yeah, so everyone was super cool. But Ford, if you're interested, yeah, if you want to sponsor the stream, let us know. Up next, there was a video of Lewis Hamilton supposedly leaving. I don't know how much of this is true. Total Wolf's apartment building or condo building. How does this work in Monaco? I have no idea. His home building in Monaco. Lewis Hamilton is wearing a helmet. However, he's wearing very loose clothing, kind of like it looks like loungewear, and he's wearing Nike Jordans. On this motorcycle.
God bless.
And everyone was like, oh my God, he's in total. Like, what do they think they're talking about? I'm over here sitting. Are you fucking crazy? You were worth $60 million a year to Ferrari alone. I think you in general, Lewis Hamilton, with all his like sponsorship deals, he's got to be at least 150 million as like, not even like a human life, literally as a sponsorship, and then as a human life, priceless, of course. I'm not trying to.
You better be careful because they got Charles Leclerc out there hitting other cars in the streets of Monaco. He might get run over by his own teammate.
Apparently, Lando Norris's mechanic in Monaco is taking his shit on for joyrides and stuff like that. And like, you have Lewis Hamilton not wearing any safety gear. Look, this is wild to me. I understand that he likes to do the adrenaline stuff, and I know a lot of drivers talk about that. I know Lewis Hamilton has talked about it. He has like a skydiving certification where he doesn't need to skydive with anyone, like for safety wise, like he can skydive alone out of an aircraft. But like, dude, wear better riding gear. What is wrong with you? You're wearing full leathers, man. Do you know how much you're worth? This is insane.
It would look sick as fuck too. Like it's not like it's cramping on his style. He could still look great.
Yeah, I would 100% I know he probably, I don't know if he fought for this or he's like, yeah, do it. And then Ferrari didn't realize how often he actually rides a motorcycle till they probably saw this video. But like, I would not let him ever ride a motorcycle if he's contracted with me. Like that is like one of the things you can definitely mitigate risk in. I was like, you're not riding any motorcycles. You're not, I feel like skiing. You're not allowed to do anything when you're contracted with me. I'm sorry. Like that is what it is. I have a line here in the notes that the standard NBA contract, I believe, specifically prohibits boxing, professional wrestling, motorcycling, moped riding, auto racing, skydiving, and hand gliding.
Yeah,
I believe do those things.
Formula One used to be pretty lenient about it because obviously to make money in motorsport, you had to be able to race in other series, and that the first person to kind of ruin that for everybody was Patrick Depailler, little French guy who went hang gliding just before he started to race, I believe, with Tyrrell and broke both of his legs in the process of that. So like the move that made his career effectively ruined because he was being a stupid idiot. Lewis, baby, you can do better than that. Come on.
Maybe he thinks because it's like a little jaunt that he could just get away with it. And I was like, you never know when some absolute dipshit is going to like run or
You're not
stop.
safe.
Like, you're not safe on that thing.
Yeah.
It is, who needs legs for racing? I'm just surprised Ferrari definitely has to have talked to him. There's no way, like if you're going to ride a motorcycle, you better wear the full protective gear. I mean, the loose clothing can get stuck on the chains of the motorcycle. We talked about this a lot in the Discord because I was just appalled. I was like, I can't believe you're getting away with this. And I know you're the Lewis Hamilton, you're Sir Lewis Hamilton, but I was like, my man, we need you in a bubble. Yeah, I know we can't do that. So wear protective gear. Like that's the best you got. I am funny
as
enough,
my mom always likes it because my mom was an ER nurse. She'd like to say that like if you wear a helmet but nothing else, you're gonna wish if you crash that you didn't have that helmet on. So that's always been her whole thing. So I think Ferrari should be on that. I'm sure Fred had to give him a call and be like, hey buddy, what are you doing?
I got put into my brother's group chat for football because I'm playing pickleball tomorrow with Drake May. It was like a charity thing, and like it was only $100. Drake May is a Patriots quarterback. He
Oh,
went to UNC, and then I have a Seattle Seahawks, I think, second string quarterback also playing. Anyway, they're like, what is he doing? And I was like, he's playing pickleball. And they're like, why? It's notorious for lower body injuries. He's their quarterback. What is it like? I can't believe they're letting him play pickleball with you guys. And I was like, yeah, I don't think he's going to be like, we're just for charity. I think we're going to be volleying back and forth. It's not like an actual tournament with Drake May.
yeah.
It's just like, you can just play with him a couple rounds. It's 20 teams against him and the Seattle quarterback. So it's going to be like 5 minutes per person. They don't want to take up too much of their time. So it's just like a quick volley picture, call it a day for charity. But I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I guess if he was like actually playing in a pickleball tournament off season, then Patriots might have a talk with him. Like, yeah, you don't want your players to be injured, especially if you need them.
Amen.
Sir Lewis, please wear gear. Please protect yourself. I'd be
Yes,
very
please.
upset if something happened. The Le Mans entry list is out. Came out yesterday on March 3rd, depending when you're listening to this. We got a full grid. 21 hypercars, 17 LMP2s, 24 LM GT3s, which is just GT3s, but just the Le Mans GT3s. We do have 5 women, the Iron Dames trio of Michelle Gadding, Rahel Frey, Celia, excuse me, Martin, and then Lilu Wadu, and Jamie Chadwick will be racing in the LMP2.
Huh. That's fun. I've been I'm excited for Le Mans this year. I'm excited for Le Mans every year, but I think 21 hypercars, that's fucking insane.
It's going to sound great. Interesting, the broadcast will probably focus on the hypercars a lot. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
I remember when the Garage 56 NASCAR was there, and everyone, like, I really wanted to see that, and they didn't show it too often. It'd be funny because it's luring in the background because it's so much bigger than some of the other cars, but
Did you pull up they had an onboard stream. Did you pull that up?
yeah, but it's not the same.
I know it's not the same, but like it emotionally it healed something in me listening to that big ass engine motoring around Le Mans. Like that's what motorsport should be.
I called Le Mans a small town in France, and then people got upset at
Mm.
me. They're like, it's not small. I was like, where are you from?
It is small.
No, people got upset.
Uh, so I've been reading this book. It's called Cars at Speed by a guy named Robert Daly from 1961. And apparently, like back in the day, drivers fucking hated Le Mans. Like he's got multiple drivers and they're like, this is the worst race of the year. I hate doing this. This is terrible.
That's
The-
wild.
Like the French suck. The track sucks. The whole thing sucks, which I just saw was so funny because I read it before I went to Le Mans last year and I was talking to some of the drivers. I was like, do you guys still feel this way? Like, I know it's a long race. I'm sure that has something to do with it. And they were like, no, because we have more than 2 guys who run a car now. So it's not quite like you're spending 12 fucking hours behind the wheel. You get to have a little break. So I thought that was fun.
Is it gonna be like Sebring one year? People are gonna be like, ugh. But I think people just don't like Sebring because it's Sebring, and they haven't really updated it
Yeah.
any part of
They
that.
also there's also a chapter on Sebring in that book, and everyone also hated it from the time that it existed because Formula One went out there, and Jim Clark was like, "What the fuck?"
Perfect. Nothing's changed.
Yep, same as always.
In other women in motorsport news, Catherine Legg is the first woman who's going to race in Cup in 7 years. She'll be at the Phoenix race this next weekend. Yeah, first woman to race in Cup in 7
That's
years.
exciting. She is just like on a mission. She's just getting behind the wheel of everything,
That's
which
so
I
fun.
have a lot of
Yeah.
respect for.
I really do like that. I like that she's just trying a little bit of everything, and she's just getting her racing chops and everything. She's like, why not? See what you're good at, enjoy it, have fun. She respects it. She races well and cleanly, so I appreciate that. Usually, of course, per usual, men were upset about it
Men are upset about everything. Name
Yeah.
a thing that men are happy about.
for $1. They're not happy about their sports team. I'll tell you that much.
Damn straight.
Damn straight. Also, I didn't add this in the notes, but Jade Afedisian was the first woman to win a race in Cars Tour history in the 11 years of the Cars Tour history. So that's also pretty big news.
Yeah. Exciting. I believe she got the win through a disqualification of the guy who crossed the line first. So I don't know if she got to have all of the celebrations in Victory Circle as like you normally would, but very, very cool. I've gals doing things. I'm here for it.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how to cover that though, because she is the first woman to win, and I think that's still like a win's a win. We talk about this all the time in
Yeah.
racing.
Yeah,
Also,
absolutely.
she put herself in the position to be P2,
Correct.
and race well enough to receive that. I mean, and you shouldn't have had a weight infraction by the winner. Then suck it. That's also
Yeah.
part of racing that you don't pass tech, so / inspection. So I think she fully deserves that right in that title.
Absolutely.
And I
I
appreciate
just
her
wish she
interview.
would have gotten to celebrate properly.
Yeah.
Like that's my only concern. I just want her to have to like soak it up, get the goods.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the last time we see her up there. So
No.
hopefully she'll get that celebration soon.
Oh,
Really
yeah.
quickly, much to my producer's dismay, chap, I listened to Haley Dillon's new podcast. She is the wife of NASCAR driver Ty Dillon, if you were unaware. And our first podcast guest was Jordan Fish, who is dating Denny Hamlin. I don't think they're engaged. Anyway, I know this is not like motorsports news. This is like people news. If some people are into it, if your significant others are into news like this, right? Jordan Fish. This was recorded before Daytona. Jordan Fish goes into how her and Denny met. She was an NBA dancer for the Charlotte Hornets, I believe. And he has season tickets, and he still has those season tickets courtside. She tells this story. This is not me being facetious or like rude. He was sitting courtside with Michael Jordan, and he said they were cute. And I think they're like which one would you date? And he pointed at Jordan Fish and said that one. She says this story on the podcast, and I was like, oh. And that's how they started dating, because Denny Hamlin pointed to her and said that one.
That one.
And then they started talking about her relationship. It's it's a private thing. Denny and Jordan. Some people aren't into that. Like I personally, I mean, hopefully everything's good at home and you guys are all treating each other with respect. Like no one's doing any terrible stuff to each other at home. That's my extent to being into SOs or athletes relationships. She said she's like, a lot of relationships have lots of downs and some ups. And I was like, oh, does that balance each other out? She's talking about how they have lots of therapy. They all you have to have lots of forgiveness. You can't live with a bitter heart with your significant other. And I was like, are you trying to convince yourself? I was like, what is happening right now?
Yikes.
I was like, I'm uncomfortable listening to this. I was like, you and Denny should have a conversation. This is not for a podcast with.
I was gonna say that shouldn't. I don't think that's podcast behavior. Is the whole conceit of this new podcast that Haley Dillon is talking to like the wives and girlfriends in the NASCAR world, or is this just?
That's a great question. So I actually do not know the point of this podcast. She started off saying like, hey, our guest is Jordan Fish. We'll be talking about like a little bit of her life, Denny Hamlin, and like what she's going on in NASCAR. It took 33 minutes to start talking about NASCAR, but they barely touched on it too, because she asked Jordan, she's like, what's like a race weekend like for you? And she's like, oh, we're in the hauler. And that's like, we're in the hauler, we're on pit road, and then we love that, love the RV that we have. The girls have bunk beds. And then, this is my favorite story. She starts talking about how Denny, I think, has his own plane, but so does the team. And sometimes the girls, not complain, but they're like, oh no, are we riding with the team or we get to ride by ourselves this weekend? And I was like, that's kind of funny. Like I would do that as a kid too.
Yeah.
Like I don't think the girls are like spoiled, but I think it's like a funny as like a kid, you don't understand. And when they fly a commercial, which they do, she says that the girls always say, are they going to the airport with the snacks? Because then they go to Hudson News and buy a shit ton of snacks. And I was listening to this and I was like, this is wild that your children have this experience. Meanwhile, Ben Rhodes is using skip lag to get to the Ford Performance Center.
That's insane.
To make it for his like sim time. And your girls are like, are we flying the team, dad's private plane, or commercial? Which one are we doing, Mom? Please tell me.
Oof. Must be nice, dude.
Yeah, so this was recorded before Daytona, so it's not like a lot of insight. I don't know. They didn't really talk about like Denny's prep at the beginning of the season. I was surprised, kind of like it was really surface level and like really just like personal. So if you're into that kind of news and like want to know more about each, it was really Haley hyping her up a lot. I didn't really hear much about Haley, like right, because Ty's racing, but I didn't hear much about like her prep into the season or like what they do in the off season. So I was like kind of surprised by. It is the first episode, so hopefully she. I don't know, maybe I'll leave like some feedback. I was like, I'm nosy enough to listen to this. Can you please answer these following questions? Can I produce for you and give you some like who you are, what you did, what does Ty do, what's going on, and go from there.
Tips.
So yeah, I guess they don't like have a job on race day besides support. I mean, like, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to say being a mother isn't a job. That is an unpaid labor job, and we have thoughts on that. But I guess there's not much to talk about because they're not the ones like in the garage, right? Like they're not walking around. They're taking care of their kids, or they're taking care of what they need to take care of. So I guess I don't know what they can really talk to us about, like the prep that goes into it. But like Denny can talk about that because of his own podcast.
Yeah.
And I want to hear more about like Jordan and the wives and the girlfriends and like their stories. So it's just a very interesting, like, they're trying to find themselves on this podcast.
So I don't know if you're familiar now. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his wife Amy have their own little like podcast that they do together. I want to see Denny Hamlin and Jordan Fish do this because I don't know if you watched. Was it the Daytona episode of Actions Detrimental where he was talking about how no man wants to go to Disney with his family and like how that's the most miserable thing in the entire world that he could imagine? I was like, damn, tell me you hate your family without telling me you hate your family.
Right. She did mention on the podcast, which is funny enough that you said that. So recorded again before the Daytona races, before the duels, before anything, before the 500, after the Clash. She said, we're going to Disney afterwards. And then, yeah, to your point, Denny said on his podcast, after Daytona, after that weekend, that going to Disney with family was miserable. Like, oh my God.
Yeesh.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And it was just like did they not think anyone would listen to it? I was just like, this is like really personal. And like, I'm learning too much about Denny Hamlin's dating life that I want to. And I guess like that's what I should have expected. I don't know, maybe I expected more NASCAR stuff. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what I expected.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. Haley Dillon's podcast, available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Tell her we sent you.
And finally on our list, we had some TV ratings updates this weekend. Fox had 4.132 million viewers for Sunday's NASCAR at COTA race, which is up from last year by a little under a million. Was the most watched sport event of the weekend, which means IndyCar did not get as much. Fox had 1.417 million viewers for Sunday's IndyCar race, which was up 45% from their 925,000 last year. That was on NBC. I predicted that they would have 1.2 million viewers, so they did a little more than what I had anticipated, which is good. So there's that.
What is that face, Elizabeth, that people who are listening to can't see, but Elizabeth is making a face like she smelled something bad and she doesn't want to embarrass someone in the room?
1.4 million's fine. It's still not great. Not even getting a million last year on NBC was bad news bears. My concern, and I'm sure we'll get into this in a minute, is just the quality of the broadcast was so terrible that I don't know that anyone's going to come back.
Oh, interesting. That's a good point. It's also thermal, which isn't produced the best racing I've ever seen in my entire life. So I'm going to test like it's a points race. Did
you see the commercial that they had, the promo for thermal?
Yeah, I thought it was an Indy 500 commercial.
I did too.
They showed nothing from thermal. Oh, maybe they showed like one thing.
I was like, dang, this guy goes hard. Like cool old clips of old race cars and like the best dudes of the past. And I was like, this is right up my alley. For thermal? I was like, what the fuck? I thought it was a generic IndyCar commercial.
And then all of a sudden it said like thermal. And I was like, none of this happened at thermal. Thermal didn't exist like 2 years ago. What are we talking about?
Yeah. I'm confused. I'm concerned. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think 1.4 is bad. No. I guess I just don't know what they're like up like how. I'm not a TV ratings person, right? Like I just know they're higher than F1. Suckers. And that 1.4 isn't bad for IndyCar. It'd be terrible for NASCAR, but this is IndyCar that we're talking about here. I know some people in the comment section said that Fox should be aiming to get 1.5 or higher, that I think the series alone could get 1 million without all the Fox stuff. But we'll see. Hopefully they fix it out. Hopefully it's like word of mouth. Someone mentioned that they might have had record-breaking attendance. By record-breaking, I mean maybe by like nothing crazy, but still more attendance than last year. I haven't seen anything about that. But I've heard inklings that they had a lot of people there over the weekend, so that was really good. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see if people tune in for thermal and then stay. So yeah, 1.4, as Chap said in the Discord, that is a gold star for the weekend. Like, great. Like, we've done what we needed to do for the first race of the season. We need to build from there and not drop. Like, we cannot get less than at least 1 million, but we need to stay at least at a 1.4. So we'll see what happens with thermal. And as the weather gets warmer, that's actually a great point that Chap made when we were talking earlier today, our producer, that as it gets warmer, people go outside and don't watch TV.
Yeah.
And as like kids stay home from school, right? They don't, families go on vacation and things like that, and people just have lives to live as the weather gets nicer. So it'll be interesting to see if we can keep up the viewership throughout the summer and things like that as well.
Yeah. If they can maintain the momentum, that's great. If they can't, then I think there needs to be a reckoning about everything, kind of. That's a story for another day. A fish to fry when we catch that fish.
It is March, so I'm interested to see when March Madness games are on and how it compares to the college basketball. I mean, obviously, I don't think college basketball is being played at noon, but just ratings wise. But I do think it'll get not that many viewers and other series stuff too.
I think they definitely had the benefit this weekend with the NASCAR season also being on Fox at the moment, so that there was no conflict. That was a straight lead in from IndyCar to NASCAR, so you didn't have to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
If we get to a later point in the season where we've taken NASCAR and it's, airing wherever the hell else it's going to air, maybe we won't get as good viewing because people have made the choice between one or the other. Maybe NASCAR gets less because no one realizes you have to go watch on Amazon Prime. Who knows?
How fun.
It's a very weird kind of broadcasting situation that's going on this year.
Speaking of IndyCar, should we talk about St. Pete, Elizabeth?
I suppose. I'm hearing word on the street that it's pullover.
I was like, what did you hear? Bob Pockris also thinks pullover.
Yep. It's Alex Plough's first win at St. Pete, which was interesting. So that's good. He's picked a box, has not made that happen yet. Strong performance from him did not seem to be like one of those key factors until the end of the race kind of came up. We had a Ganassi 1-2 with Scott Dixon finishing in second place with a last lap pass on Joseph Newgarden, who began to run out of fuel. Incredible stuff from Dixon, because this man is in his 25th year of open wheel competition, and he did not have a radio this weekend, and he still finished second. I'm interested to see how that goes if he actually gets to keep it, because IndyCar's rule book states that you have to have functioning radio communication. So it was interesting that he admitted after the race that he didn't have any. I'm sure that there are like loopholes that we can have here where if it was just static, then there is a communication. It just wasn't good.
They do have Morse
so we'll
code.
See. Yeah, exactly. So Mr. Dixon managed his own strategy, his own pit stops, his own hybrid management, his own fuel management. Didn't have spotters to tell him where he was on track and who was around him, and he still managed to escape the chaos. So big ups to him, because that was insane.
In the chat, Baritone's telling us that from the racer, he did apparently have radio until the first pit stop, and then the crew still heard him at least till the last one.
Okay, so, that's good.
So yeah, I think they can probably, like you said, a gray area where it's like,
I was going to say,
it was fine. It worked out.
You can't help if the radio screws up. You just at least had it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the pullover is great. I mean, Chip Ganassi debated all of us, because I have notes from all the things, and I was like, wait, where did Alex Palou come from with this strategy?
I know.
They did a really incredible job with both of them. I know Joseph Newgarden is upset. He did have a fuel hose stuck a little bit, so I wonder if he's going to like blame that for some like reason, even though he's pitted long after that with that fuel hose being stuck or something like that. Another Bob Pockris. IndyCar did take away my NASCAR Bob Pockris and make him IndyCar Bob Pockris, but he was talking to Will and Jay New in the post-race press conference, and he did ask both of them about, I forget the exact question, but along the lines of, because it's Alex Palou's win, like, how are you going to treat like the rest of the season? Like, how are you going to essentially defeat Alex Palou? Dixon said a working radio would help. Classic.
So
which I thought was funny in his little New Zealand accent. And then Jay New, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm still upset about. This happened days ago, And I texted Elizabeth about this, and I'm mad that Joseph Newgarden was so sassy to Bob Pockers. Joseph Newgarden goes, Bob, it's the first race of the season. I know it's your first time here, but like, it's the first race of the season.
Yep.
And I was like, first of all, don't talk to Bob Pockers that way.
Yeah.
How dare
He's
you?
Bob Pockris. He's a fucking legend.
It's not like he doesn't know what's going on here. And it's a very
He's-
good point. Like, he also tweeted like this interaction, and I don't think Bob's mad. I think he just like realizes how athletes are and just like whatever. And like, I'm mad for Bob, which is like I don't have to be. And he's just like, yeah, I asked this question because I mean he's going for his 3 in a row. Alex Palou. He obviously had an incredible strategy, incredible pace, managed his tires well, and like is this something that they think about like from the first race? Like it is, but like it's already a mental game if Alex Palou is kicking your butt. Plus the Chip Ganassi car who doesn't have a radio passes you. So yeah, Bob's the best. I agree. I am upset for Bob.
Do you think it's going to be an Alex Palou walkover this year, or do you think that we're going to see him have to fight, I guess?
God, but that was so good, that race for Palou. He
fun.
crushed it. People are
I
so
know.
salty about it too. Do I think it's gonna be a walkover? I think he'll be very dominant. I do think. I mean, Joseph Newgarden was right up there.
Mhm.
I think now he knows what he wants to work on. Him and like between the Chip Ganassi racing cars for our fantasy. I just wanted to tell you, Elizabeth, suck it. Because obviously my teams did very well, and I was watching the entire time and I was like, oh, bless Chip Ganassi cars, just crushing it for my fantasy points. Yeah, both Chip Ganassi cars going to be great. I think Palou will be very dominant. I think J.New will be right behind him. I mean, he was right there, and I think they're going to just fix some stuff up. And Joseph Newgarden, hearing how sassy he was to Bob about it, I think he's going to like lock the fuck in. He's going to be like, we lost to someone with no radio? Stop.
Insane.
Like, I am upset. We should all be upset. I am Penske perfect.
I think the crazy thing about Alex Palou is like he's inevitable, not necessarily because he wins everything, but because he's always there. Like last year, I believe his average, like he got more top tens than any other driver at all, like by far. He had more top fives than any other driver by far. So he didn't need to have the most wins. He had 2 compared to like, I think Pato and Will Power, I think Joseph, they all had 3. He's just always
Consistent.
up at the front.
Up in the front and always consistent. And Chip Ganassi, especially if both cars make it up there, because I definitely saw some teams where it was just like split apart and stuff like that. Where, I mean, they crushed it. The team crushed it. The drivers crushed it. It's just it's really interesting to see how this will go into thermal. Considering Alex Palou won the first thermal race as well, so they know what to do. There.
It'll be a thing. We also had some Firestone tire stuff going on this weekend. IndyCar came to Firestone at the end of last season and said, we need a bigger performance gap between our primary and our alternate tires. And Firestone said, bet. They turned up with an alternate green tire this weekend that was like good for somewhere between 8 to 14 laps. And that was about it, which I thought was very fun, added to the strategy. They did a great job of meeting the expectations that IndyCar had set with them. Pretty strong as well for the hybrids. They did not like overdevelop a tire. I also just want to shout out the green tires because I'm fucking obsessed with them. They are not made of rubber.
Nope.
They're made of something called waiuli. And waiuli is a little desert shrub that exists in America. And it doesn't require much water and it doesn't really need much care. So they can harvest this very easily, no shipping costs associated with it. It grows quickly, so it's way more sustainable than rubber trees. Shout out to Firestone. I just think that's neat. And we have that compound, I believe, for all of these street races.
I get to do the interview with the Firestone tire guy that I did, that he just like told me all about the process, and he talks about the shrub and things like that. And obviously you can't take a Firestone tire out because of the proprietary stuff and the rest of it in there. But it is really interesting how much goes into like how much Firestone cares and like really goes into it. I don't know how, like I know they're so close with Firestone being a primary sponsor as well, and the tires. I just like don't hear Goodyear talking like that. And I was like, man, I love Firestone. They got the Firehawk, and I wore my little Firehawk
Yeah.
hat and got to tell people about it during our watch along. So Firestone does an incredible job, and I like that they took that criticism, like you said, provided these new
Hmm.
tires, had that new strategy, and it's really really great.
Yeah. So it's functionally like it does the same exact things as rubber. So it's very cool, very neat, and it allowed for a much more compelling strategy than we were getting in the past. Um, Basically because there was such a diversity in like what the tires could feasibly accomplish.
Yeah, and IndyCar had their on Fox debut, as we mentioned, and I want to ask Elizabeth: is this the point where I shit on the broadcast and compliment some
Yes.
things? Oh, perfect. Okay, would you
Yes.
like to go
This is
first?
t all right. I hold on, let me go. I wrote a whole story about this yesterday.
Oh, I just
I
wrote
wrote
like six
two
bullet
stories
points.
about I wrote two stories about this
Give
yesterday.
it to me.
Um, so I did one on my own blog called What I Mean When I Say a Motorsport Broadcast Should Be Nutritious, because I keep
I like
saying
that.
this. Basically, my concern with the Fox broadcast is that they had many, many months to put together a very great and compelling product and did not do so. They lacked graphics, they lacked explanations for things, they lacked, I don't during that first lap crash when they started showing the front wing cameras and no one had any idea who those wing cameras were coming from because no one apparently thought to tell them that they should like say whose this is. Uh Very, very frustrating. Very frustrating that there was no lap counter for the first little bit of the race. It just felt like there was a big missed opportunity here that I don't know. So I in this story I mention what's his name again? A gentleman named David Hill.
Hmm.
David Hill was a longtime TV producer that Liberty Media brought into Formula One. And they sat him down and said, help us make this broadcast better. So David Hill went to the Formula One, like their big TV broadcast facility, and said, I want to see your best produced race. Not the most interesting race, but the one that you feel the most proud of. And if I have a question, I'm going to raise my hand. And about every minute, raise his hand. Who's Christian Horner? What's Red Bull? Why does this matter? We need something like that for IndyCar because they really dropped the ball. No push pass, no
Yeah.
hybrid information. Im Almost impossible to tell the strategy because they never had the tire information showing up, and when they did, it was very, very brief. Like I thought the booth did decent. I thought Will Buxton was fine. He led a decent broadcast. He was informed. He did not show up sounding like he didn't know what he was talking about. But it felt extremely limited where like I'm a person who's been watching IndyCar actively for over 10 years and I'm sitting here going, I don't what is happening? Like why? Where is this going? I was
Yeah.
just the graphics were very frustrating.
Yeah, the cartoons. Oh God, I hate that Fox does it. I get it. I guess we hired someone to make these fucking cartoons of our drivers, of NFL people when they play the NFL on Fox. I don't know what it
Yeah.
is though. Someone told me that it might have been AI or is AI because they give the drivers six packs in their racing suits, which is
Well, they're
weird.
supposed to be cartoon. Someone found the actual like when Fox debuted this for NASCAR, it was supposed to be like some callback to superhero comic books and whatever to like prove that these guys are, great
Anyway,
athletes
it's
and
awful.
superheroes.
It's
I
absolutely
hate it.
awful. It looks terrible. Scott McLaughlin got wrecked. He looks absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
So
They
yeah,
did him so dirty. And also
so
him
dirty.
next to Colton Herta, where Scott McLaughlin is like a little pinhead, and Colton Herta, they made his head so wide. It's like twice the size of Scott McLaughlin's. What the fuck is that? Could you at least like make sure that the scale is similar?
It looks terrible, especially
Jesus.
when it's frustrating. I understand why they had the heads on the live timing graphic, because in case you were new, you didn't know who the drivers look like. So I was like, okay, I see it. But you used a really shitty cartoon to do this.
Yeah.
You could have just used their headshots and like would have helped me a lot
Yeah.
more than whatever graphic this is.
Yeah.
Some other complaints I
Indy,
had.
sorry,
Oh god.
I don't want to cut you. Indy Keebler says on the podcast that Hinch has, he said that they know the graphics is still a work in progress and some things will be debuted throughout the season. My concern is that there is no shortage of IndyCar broadcasts out there that they could have been watching and anticipating. If
Yeah.
you tuned into any of the IndyCar races from last season, especially the ones that had the hybrid power units, it is very, very easy to see where NBC dropped the ball, where they did not show you things. And if you take that graphics package off entirely, you can find ways to simulate that. I don't know. I think that's the biggest thing that frustrates me. They've known for months and months and months that they have this opportunity. They should have been squirreled away somewhere, like
Yeah.
plotting and planning and looking at past races and seeing what they would have done for that event so that when they show up for the first race of the year, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, this also isn't Fox's first rodeo. Like, they
Yeah,
do sports,
they've been doing NASCAR for decades.
which I have notes about too whenever we get there. But like, they've been doing
NASCAR, the broadcast sucks, but
it wasn't IndyCar St.
what the fuck?
Fox has been doing sports. Fox is also Fox. It's like a major network. They're not short on money. They're not short on finding talent to do this. If this was like me and Elizabeth putting this together, I would actually be quite proud of ourselves for like doing this half-ass, you know? But like, this is Fox, and I expected, like, to Elizabeth's point, so much more from their resources, from being Fox, from having the money, and like having months. As soon as they bought the rights, they should have had people in there doing it. So
Exactly.
it was really frustrating. One thing I did text Elizabeth about, I remember this, when the yellow flag came out, and this is such like a me thing, but I'm gonna be honest with you, the yellow flag came out, and the graphics they had were orange on the screen. But they also had orange and black backgrounds. And I told chat this too. So for those who don't know, the meatball flag in racing is a black flag with an orange circle in the middle. I understand it's not striped. But to me, the only time I ever see orange and black is when that flag is out in racing.
Yeah.
So I looked at the graphic really quick and I was like, oh, is someone DNFing? Like something happening on the track where like we need to, but no, it's the yellow flag. And it was orange all over my graphics package. And I was like, what are we doing? You know it's not orange. You know it's yellow. Yeah. Why is it orange?
Especially when you have three cars whose color scheme is papaya and black, you have to be extremely careful that you get your yellow shade right.
Yeah, it was that sound mixing was atrocious. And I know this is an issue also on the NASCAR broadcast, so I don't know if Fox was having a day, TM, all caps, because sometimes you couldn't hear the commentators. They like went to an onboard or something, and you like could barely hear Will. At some point I heard one of them talking to someone behind them, like whispering. Like I couldn't hear what they said, but like you can hear like something happening.
Yeah.
And, like the mixing, whatever was going on, was absolutely atrocious. And I was like, what is this, Fox? This isn't also like your first rodeo. This is crazy.
I tuned in from free practice 1 all the way through to whatever the race end. Not in, like at the first practice session was very rough, where there was no scoring pylon at all.
Oh, I heard
like
that.
none. And the visuals were very bad, just because like the cars would go into a shady spot and then it'd be completely black, and then they'd pop back out into the light, and then it would be blindingly bright. So they didn't like have that figured out. I thought maybe maybe it's FP1. We're getting our teething problems out of the way, and then they turned up to qualifying, and the pylon still didn't work. And then they were like, it wasn't being updated quickly. Like, these are very, very, if you're gonna have one thing on a broadcast, exactly one thing, I want a fucking functional scoring pylon.
Yeah.
I want, especially in qualifying, want to have instant knowledge of how fast a driver goes when they cross the line. If the commentators are reacting to what they're seeing on the timing screen, and I still haven't seen this go up yet, that's bad. That's way too much of a delay. That's just absurd.
Yeah, the timing tower also during the race was like shitting itself. And like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Oh my God,
it was like the names kept like scrolling up, like as they passed like in the pits or something.
One would like jump, and then sometimes there'd be two names in one slot, so they were like written over each other.
Connor Daly was P1 for a little bit, and like someone was confused because like it's showing up on the live timing that I'm using as well. So if something's going on with like a timing thing or like I don't know what's happening, but yeah, it was just like shitting itself completely. So no push to pass graphic. The booth would talk about graphics or something that we didn't see.
Okay, so I don't know what exactly went wrong here, but there was for the international broadcasts specifically, They had the pylon and they had some of the initial graphics, but the things that got put on like during the race, like the head-up display that they have, it's similar to the Formula One one where
Hmm.
they and the Halo they have the info. We were seeing that on the broadcast in Fox in the United States, and they were discussing that here. The UK or other international broadcasts got the exact same feed, the exact same commentators, and the exact same graphics package, except for those in-race graphics, like the head-up display one.
Why?
So they're talking about that. No fucking idea. No clue. Literally none.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there was a lot of strange missteps that were just mistakes that I would have expected them to not make just because of the fact that they've had so long to prepare for this, because Fox has experience covering motorsport. None of this should have come as a surprise, and it felt like it caught a lot of the production crew off guard this weekend, and that was a shock.
You mentioned you thought the booth was all right. Do you have any comments
They were
around?
fine.
Yeah, there was sometimes, again, I don't know.
I
Gosh, I
think
don't know how to explain it. Are they like too
Mhm.
chummy with each other? Like they know
I
each
was going to
other
use
too
that
well?
exact word. Um, I think that's the thing is like Will Buxton, I think, has gotten used to because he wasn't a play-by-play guy on F1 TV.
Right.
He could have fun and do like a grid walk and like chat or like after the race do an interview. Um, and I think him and Hinchcliffe have a rapport together that's really strong for that kind of stuff, but doesn't work or translate as well when they're in the booth. And so they're doing this play-by-play where it sounds like they're like, yeah, they're buddies, but it's not teaching me as much as I could have known. That I'm willing to like that's a human element to it of maybe it's just like they're getting back into the swing of things. Will Buxton is
Yeah.
new. I've cut them a little bit more slack than I have with Fox in general. Just because I think Buxton he did show up prepared. He showed up informed. He knew what he was talking about. He didn't make any blatant terrible errors. I would like to I don't mind being chummy in like practice sessions and stuff, but during the race, I think it gets especially annoying. Um, and that's the thing that annoys the hell out of me about NASCAR as well. And I'm sure we'll get to that too.
Yeah, I guess it's not bad, right? Like I think there's a I can come slack. I can not be a huge hater on the broadcast booth. Yeah, it definitely came off a little chummy. And again, sometimes what they like similar to your point about NASCAR is like Townsend Bell would go off in these tangents, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
dude, there's like literally passing and race. Like, what are we
Yeah.
talking about here? I
I
want
think
play
I
by
just
play.
tuned Townsend Bell out completely at this point. I can't do it with Clint Boyer because he pisses me off so much. But but with Townsend Bell, I just like blinders on. When he speaks, I ain't listening.
Yeah, I think, gosh, I know we can't compare. I just like listen to like hockey broadcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is really good. I'm really like, they know their players. They know exactly what's going on. They know all these
Yeah.
passes. They're like so knowledgeable. And like all these guys are. And I think there's
Mhm.
just like a better way to talk about it or show it
Yeah.
without being too colloquial and like explaining it to.
Yeah.
It just, yeah. Again, it seemed like a stream. I was like, I could do this. If
Mhm.
this is what we're doing, put me on. We're going to have a
I
great
think
time.
that's
Like,
my primary takeaway is like the storytelling aspect. Broadcasting is storytelling. Commentary is storytelling. And you need to make sure that you have all of the elements in place for that to make sense. So maybe they need to go take a fucking creative writing workshop class somewhere to understand how to build a universe and say that, like, flesh out some characters and do it in a very concise and efficient way so that the viewers at home have a sense of who these drivers are, why they are doing what they're doing, and why it matters. I wasn't getting that because I think they were too busy having like little chit chats and conversations. Um, I want that's what I liked about Lee Diffie. He has the ability to make everything maybe not feel consequential, but like that everything has some sort of purpose
mhm.
and that everything that he is talking about, he's got the instant fact in his head or the stat that relates to
Yeah.
this directly. He's got a story that is integral to this. And I think not enough people approach broadcasting looking at it through a lens of, I shouldn't say anything that doesn't matter. no shitty jokes,
Yeah.
no banter, no fun roasts on my co-hosts, like unless it contributes to what is being like what is happening on the track and conveying that to the viewers at home.
I think there's time for that during yellow flags and things like that. I think there's
Absolutely.
always moments, but yeah, that's a really good point. I think we are missing that. I think they're taking race car drivers and trying to make them into broadcast people, opposed to taking traditional broadcast people and making them knowledgeable about motorsports or
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting.
And I know I've talked about this before, but I did talk to James Hinchcliffe and I was like, how did they prepare you? And he's like, oh, they didn't. Which in and of itself is a problem. They just were intending to hand him a microphone and let him figure it out on the fly. And he was like, can I get some classes? Can I get some guidance? Can you tell me like like what's bad? What should I not do? Like what should I focus on? They didn't have any of that for him. I don't know if it's the same for Fox. I'm sure it probably is considering the quality of whatever Clint Boyer has to say during a race weekend. But it just is mind-boggling to me that they just assume these guys have something to say, and a lot of them don't.
Yeah, Clint even got pissed this weekend. We'll get to that. Really quickly to finish off our IndyCar thing. Prema, decent debut. Come ILAP P19, Schwartzman P20, survived, completed all the laps, clean cars. Finished ahead of 7 chartered teams, and that's important because Prema doesn't have charters. So finishing ahead of chartered teams, kind of making a name for themselves. Yeah, P19, P20 isn't the best, but it's not the worst. First time, learning stuff, grabbing it, cars clean, didn't get into any incidents, unlike the first couple of laps. Sad Nolan Siegel noises.
And Prema had some interesting personnel changes at the start of this year. On January 1st, I think Michael Cannon, who was previously with AJ Foyt Racing, I believe, and has done things with almost every IndyCar team member, he started with Prema and then left a few weeks later, and it's unexplained as to what happened. He's currently in gardening leave, so he can't work in the IndyCar paddock until June. It's not clear why they had that split or if Michael Cannon could have helped better prepare them for what they were about to get themselves into. Cannon is very well respected. I've heard a lot of rumors about why he left, and I'm not going to repeat them because I haven't figured them out if they're true or not yet. So it's perplexing. It's interesting. I think the team could certainly benefit from someone who has a whole lot of experience. If it's not going to be Michael Cannon, I think this weekend should show them that they should just have somebody.
Sorry, I wrote down that Will Buxton said that pit stops were thick and fast, and I did not
I
like
hate that phrase. I hate that phrase.
They were also Dixon glazing. Like, it's one thing, obviously he's great, but they were talking about how fit he was, and he was in his 40s, and I was like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about his racing? Are we
just kiss already? Jesus.
Come
on.
I see chat wants to talk about this. Yukos Hollinger, racing's very midday.
Yeah.
On Sunday.
They were there.
Classic
Hollinger. Old Stingray Rob started 26th, finished 21st, so he progressed. Connor Daly started 22nd, finished 17th. So he progressed as well. Critically, neither of these performances are better than what they were last year. Grosjean qualified 5th in 2024 for St. Pete. He did end up retiring with a mechanical failure, so he DNF. So at least like these guys finished. But even Agustin Canapino started 20th, finished 16th. Interesting. I mean, they're having personnel changes. Connor Daly's sponsorship that went away that is now back with something. Stingray Rob being Stingray Rob.
Yeah, I understand you can fight for your position to stay on the lead lap, but hot damn, Stingray Rob, even the booth was laughing at you. It was even annoyed with you. Like, I get it, my man. I get it. You want to stay on the lead lap. You are doing your darnest. I am so upset. Alex Palou, though, luckily handled it like with grace. No issues. I mean, a couple took a little bit to pass him, but whatever. Do your best on that racetrack. went around
Come
him.
on, buddy.
Led Janu through, obviously, because of course, once the race leader passes, you're on your left, and you're
Well,
supposed to
it was
blah,
Chevy
blah,
on
blah.
Chevy, so he has more of an incentive to let a Chevy pass as opposed to a Honda driver. So of course you're gonna let
Elizabeth,
Joseph
can you
go.
say that again for the haters in my watch along when I mention that? One more time.
What?
One more
They,
time,
they
Elizabeth. Come on.
Stingray Rob is a Chevy driver. Of course he's gonna let the Chevy car through way easier. If Joseph Newgard had been in the lead of that race, I'm sure Stingray would have moved over much quicker. I still think he would have fought for his position, but I do think he would have moved over at some point when someone came on the
Like after a
radio
lap.
and said, Mr. Chevy's fucking annoyed, Stingray. Move over. Jesus Christ.
Thank you.
Anyway, he is not the only one on that team who has had a notable impeding the leader incident. Connor Daly had a similar thing many a year ago with Graham Rahal at Mid-Ohio, I believe, trying to get around him and take a home win, and Connor Daly was going absolutely the fuck not. I will be sitting in front of you and I will be making your life miserable. Anyway, we've got Dale Coyne Racing and Venus VK. Dale Coyne Racing and Renus VK overachievers of the week. They got a 12th place qualifying ever. I believe that the broadcast was saying that's the first ever Firestone Fast 12 appearance for Renus VK, which was great for him. Very exciting. He turned that into a 9th place finish, which is about more than what you can expect from a Dale Coyne car, proving that Renus VK is, I believe, a very underrated driver. He also finished ahead of Alexander Rossi. Alexander Rossi is the guy who replaced VK at Ed Carpenter Racing. So we had a new guy come in, take your spot, and finish better. I think Dale Coyne Racing probably maybe they've got some hopes. I think it's probably just Renus VK personally carrying those hopes on his shoulders. Because the other guy on their team is a rookie. But goddamn Renus VK. What a guy.
We had classic Colton Herta sad pit stop issues. Womp womp womp.
We did.
Andretti can't live it down, unfortunately. So, also sorry, Colton Herta fans, that happened on your pit stop. I'm trying to see what it helped. Pato had a pit early. He had a puncture. That was a rough race for Pato.
Yeah,
Climbed back up.
Bad news for Pato.
But it was just he was struggling. He had to like fight from the beginning, to get his shit together and get up there in the positions.
First lap accident wiped out Will Power, Nolan Siegel, and
Tony Kanaan was pissed.
Yeah. Who's the other fellow wiped out? I'm trying to still remember all of the new guys' names.
Oh yeah, a new guy with an accent.
Was it Louis Foster?
Yes.
Yeah. So wiped all those out at the start. Very sad. I have Nolan Siegel as like my dark horse for the season. I expect him to do better than I think a lot of other people are expecting him to do. But that probably is just me. Wasn't his fault.
What do you rank the race out of 10, Elizabeth?
Out of 10. Ooh.
Minus the production stuff that we're hating on. Just like the race itself.
The quality of the race. I'm going to give it a 6.5.
Oh, I was thinking that 6.57.
Yeah, because I thought it was good, but I would have appreciated it more if we had more insight into what the strategies and stuff were. I think that took away from my ability to enjoy it, just because if I'm at the track, at the very least, I can kind of keep an eye on where cars are, not be shown whatever camera feeds they want me to see. So we'll see. It was all right. It was IndyCar.
And then right into IndyCar, like an hour and a half later, we had NASCAR at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. It was a cool new layout from turn 6. It made a left, so it became 6A and 6B, and it just kept going. So I enjoyed that layout. I liked it a lot.
I did. I thought it was a nice. I mean that track is so fucking long. If you're doing like some of the other shortened versions of it, it was just abysmal. Waiting for cautions to happen and like get done because it would take 900 years. So I thought it was a good layout. I thought it was racy. I liked it. NASCAR doesn't know if COTA is going to come back yet for 2026.
It's
I
so
hope
interesting.
they do.
Why don't they know that? Who doesn't know that by now?
That's NASCAR. They wanted to kind of evaluate what the on the ground fan response was going to be again this year. It's like people like the event. It's just I don't know if it's justifying how much it costs to put on the event.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's more of like an economic reason, as opposed to anything else. It looked hop in there, looked fun. People were around. So who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I enjoyed the track a lot. They also had track
Mhm.
limits miscommunication. So it wasn't like they
Yeah.
changed the rule. It was that
No.
last year it was different corners, and then this year it was new corners. They're
Yeah.
doing track limits violation. It wasn't all corners. It was only certain ones. And then teams either didn't read or the driver's meeting wasn't that
Yeah.
good. There was like some communication breakdown where you heard it on the radio during the race. They're like, this corner, not this corner. They've changed their mind. Like drivers didn't know.
Yeah.
Everyone was being sassy about it.
That I feel like every goddamn weekend this year so far, and I know there's only been three, every NASCAR weekend, there's something that I have like read about in the pre-race notes that the teams have just completely have no idea is happening,
Yeah.
or the fans, no idea. And it's not that this information is not available. It very similar to last week when we had Alton Sawyer come out and say, we're not, if we've got a last, like a yellow, a reason to throw yellow, we're going to throw the yellow on the last lap because we learned from the Xfinity race we're not going to do it. But like, dang. Ah,
Yeah, it's interesting to see. And then drivers were also complaining they weren't enforcing the rules because they're like, hey, so and so, just are we
yeah.
not enforcing this? Or are we just letting him get away
Yeah.
with this? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah. Very, very weird.
I know how race control is. There's a
Yeah.
lot of screens. I just don't know if everyone's has like assigned different screens that they're supposed to be looking and watching and making sure drivers aren't going past the limits and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
both of you, they assume they know how to read. What do we have? Austin Cindric and the right hook. Ty Dillon ran Cindric wide on turn 20. Cindric retaliated by hooking Dillon on the front straight at 100 miles per hour into the wall. I told the guy at Ford yesterday I would shake Cindric's hand. How will and should NASCAR respond with these penalties? Are they? I haven't heard any rumblings of Cindric getting in trouble.
I have
Oh,
actually.
interesting.
I have heard that his the people were not impressed with the move that he did that got Dillon into the wall. So I'm not sure what it's going to be, just because I think that we don't have enough road courses to like establish a precedent on this. Um, previous Chris has noted previous similar instances have resulted in points penalties. So if he loses them, that's not good. I think we'll see. I think we'll see.
We did have a lot of incidents. We'll get through in a second, especially especially the first lap, first turn. Connor Zilic did win the Xfinity race, which was cool. After the soccer game I went to on Saturday, I went to a local bar and they actually had it on. And I guess because it's on the CW, they just have it on, which was really cool to see. He unfortunately did wreck out of the Cup debut for Trackhouse. Zilic was really critical of himself, saying that he has to just do better and improve race by race, whether it's Xfinity or Cup. I think he was doing pretty well in Cup. He was showing some really good speed till he got yeeted by Daniel Suarez. And yeah, unfortunately had to get out, that's when my fantasy team started to fall apart in NASCAR.
Yeah, I have no qualms. I mean, he made some mistakes. He had some issues. He's also five whole entire years old. So let's give the kid some slack. He did really great in Xfinity. I think he proved that obviously he has talent. It was just a shitty day for Trackhouse, I think, start to finish. They had the Daniel Suarez spin that collected Connor Zilic. They had the first lap incident between Ross Chastain and Chase Elliott. Chastain did
Bruh.
escape that and get through, but still. And then they had Shane Van Gisbergen, where he looked really good. And then it seemed like on the restarts, he just couldn't quite get it together. And then the team did a very strange pit call for him that left him like 9 seconds back and having to fight back against everyone. So it was perplexing.
Race start, and I'm seeing Carson Hocevar almost freaking hooking Bubba Wallace. And I'm like, oh no, here we freaking go.
Yeah.
We got how many laps? Like 90 laps in this shindig. We have so long to go. And then Ross Chastain makes a terrible move after we're all yelling at Carson Hocevar, who was his mentee, for doing shitty moves the week previously. It looks like he's like, wait, that's a great idea, actually. I should be more of a shithouse again. And I was like,
Yeah.
please stop. Chase Elliott
Why?
spins. He was doing pretty well. He did get back up, which is great.
He did. Yeah, he had a great finish.
Chase Elliott always quietly just in the background doing there. He just needs to win for me to be like, okay, we're doing Chase Elliott things. But I was just like so shocked that I guess I shouldn't have been shocked that Chastain was just like, oh yeah, let me see what happens if I just do this and spin out Chase Elliott. Christopher Bell did win, and that's back-to-back wins for C. Bell. Though he does look like a child, 18 like Connor Zilic, he is in his 30s. Is Byron in his 30s? Maybe he's 28. Maybe he's 30. I don't know what Skinner did.
Google has an answer.
Is it his year? People are saying. Interesting.
So here's the thing with Christopher Bell is 30 years old exactly. He's 30 years old. My thing with Christopher Bell is he's never been able to get like he's gotten to the playoffs, but he's always had to scrap and fight and really, really push hard.
He's never been
at the
consistent, too.
No, it's always taken until like the very end of the regular season for him to get his spot, which means that he's spent the year not focusing on putting together like an impeccable season, but having to just survive. So I think like he's very skilled, he's very talented, and I think if he's got the ability to actually spend the rest of this regular season working on his craft, fixing up, the mistakes that he still has, I do think he'll be entering the playoffs with a lot more confidence and a lot more valuable experience. Like he's obviously done it in the past, but I just don't. There's a difference between coming into the end of the year with confidence and coming into the end of the year like, oh shit, we just scraped on in here.
Yeah.
Now we have to keep scraping on by. So he's done a strong start so far. Whether or not he can maintain that into the playoffs remains to be seen. But I think it's at least good for him for his career that he's got. He's got this opportunity where he has now like 15 more races or whatever the fuck until we start the playoffs to really feel like he kind of gets it together.
Yeah. Kamikaze says, I feel like Bell kind of gets forgotten. And I don't know if I don't fully agree, right? I don't think he gets forgotten. I just don't think he puts on a really good race and then he drops back. Like I said, it's just his inconsistency throughout the years. I think he kind of reminds me of like when I talk about Lando Norris, like they have everything to put together a perfect race. They just never do. And I think now me and Elizabeth are saying that he's putting together that because as our producer put up this great stat, can JGR translate Bell's success to their other cars? Hamlin was P17 in the points, Gibbs P35 behind Jimmy Johnson still. So Christopher Bell is figuring out something with that Toyota and his driving style, and he's putting it together finally. And I think we're going to see, hopefully, this is his year where not like he wins the championship, but he's close to it enough where he's in this really high contention. He gets the points pretty easily, and he's make it to the Final Four, and hopefully maybe he can win next year. If he does win this year, that's great too. I'm not going to complain, but it'd be great.
Yeah. So I think it's good. We're setting up. I know people don't like it when the same driver wins a bunch, but I like that we've had, at least it's a diversity of tracks. It's not like we've had 3 wins on like an intermediate for the same guy. Yeah. We've got a guy who did a super speedway and also a road course. That's pretty cool. That's a very strong diversity of skill on different kinds of tracks. And I think that's pretty neat.
Chat makes a good point. Bell is in the era where he's clearly the number 1 Gibbs driver, and that hasn't existed before this year. I do like that a lot. I also want to talk about the broadcast where there was the fight between Bell and Busch. Poor Kyle. Kyle's never going to win again, is he? That poor dude. There were many things wrong with the broadcast. Again, the sound mixing was wild. I heard people, either I couldn't hear them during certain times, or I heard coughing or them yapping in the background per usual. So again, Fox was having a day, all caps. Then during this, God, I think even Bauer and Harvick got pissed. They were following them around the track, and whatever camera Fox chose was behind a grandstand during this battle of them being neck and neck. So all of a sudden you couldn't see the track anymore for a couple seconds because they were looking at the track was in front of this grandstand. So we're looking at the back of this grandstand, the track's in front of it as we're panning around it. I think it's just
during a pivotal moment.
Pivotal moment. And I was like, I think everyone was like, "What the?" It's like you ever like turn the TV off? Oh, do you remember that Super Bowl commercial where they jokingly made it a black screen and people thought someone sat on the remote like during the game or something? It
No,
was like that
that's
moment
funny.
where it's like you turn off the TV and everyone's like, "Ah!" Everyone in my chat, like we're trying to watch this battle. Kyle Busch might finally win a race after so long, or Bell might win it again and pass him. But no, we didn't see
Yeah.
anything. We also missed a lot of other pivotal passes going
Yeah.
on. Suddenly, Chase Elliott was like P5, P4, and I was like, where did he freaking come from? No one's talking about him.
Yeah. And the inane yapping that they were doing, like you can throw a blanket over the first four cars on the grid right now. Like we've got a four-way battle for the win with 6 laps to go, and they there was like no excitement. There was no like this is cool. It was just like we were watching a really boring game of golf, and they were just kind of like caught up in their own little universes, telling their own little stories. It was very frustrating. I lose track of the amount of times in a weekend I say to the television, specifically Clint Boyer, shut the fuck up. Which is generally when he like gets on some tangent somewhere on some stupid thing that like again does not matter, and just talking about it. We're just going off on it. Very frustrating. It was not. I was not pleased.
During that moment where they were showing the grandstand instead of the track, I
Yeah.
think you can hear Clint sigh, and then I think Kevin
Yeah.
Harvick turned off the mics and they were silent for a couple seconds because they were pissed. I like. I mean, at some point, I also feel bad for them because this is what they have to work with. They keep showing the worst camera angles. They showed like the front bumper of like Kyle Busch while
Yeah.
this fight's happening. I was like, what's going on? I also heard
Yeah.
people complaining about them showing the significant others side by side and like taking up space for the
Oh yeah.
for what we were watching. I don't mind the showing of significant others. I think it shows the tension, right? Like you're not the
Yeah.
only one who's on the edge of their seat. Like these are people's like significant others.
Yeah.
These are stakes. I don't
They
mind
do
that.
often also show like team bosses
Yeah.
and other personnel.
I don't
So
mind that. I think it's the format of which they chose to do it. I think there's a way to show it
Mhm.
on like the timing screen. I think they did that a little bit with Belle's significant other. They showed
Yeah.
like just a kind of window on the timing while the actual back and forth was happening on the full screen. And I was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Then I get
Yeah.
it. I think the fact that they're showing her and Samantha side by side, Kyle Busch's wife, and it
Yeah.
was just like the racing was really small too. And I was like,
Yeah.
whose decision is
It's
this?
it's fine for adding texture to the event and adding like emotional appeal, but that should be like a detail for it.
Yeah.
Again, if you're treating this broadcast like a story, that is a little thing, that is a sentence worth of information. That is not a take up the screen with any of this. That is put a little inset over here and let us see what's going on.
Yeah, I thought it was. It's how they laid out the screen. Yeah, with 2/3 of the screen was just empty blue and small screens in the middle, just a bad use of space. Yeah, the way they use
Yeah.
space, especially even by side with the commercials, was frustrating. But it's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I actually found it a lot less. I guess maybe I tuned them out. That's a great point. I didn't notice if they were yapping too much this time. I know
It
they were
felt like
boring.
they were.
We get this a lot in
See,
sports
this
car
is the
racing.
thing is when they start to do that, I tune out because
Yeah.
I'm usually working on a story already. And so I was doing my like winners and losers for the race because there were some clear losers right from the start. So I was like, if they're just going to keep talking, I'm just going to tune out. And then I tuned kind of back in for the last like 20-ish laps. But again, there still were those moments where like Clint Boyer says something and I'm like, can you just not? Can you? I can't even think of one off the top of my head. I should start writing these down so I can come here with facts and stacks.
Caitlin Vincey did a great job, pit lane reporter. I mean, I didn't doubt that for a second. She's great at what she does. So
Mhm.
I thought she was fun. She asked the usual questions. I thought she was great. I think Jimmy Little did great in the pit for IndyCar.
Right.
No notes there on,
I
on them.
liked. I really liked Jack Harvey pit reporter era.
Ooh.
You didn't like him?
No.
I think he has a lot of potential because you can tell if you were. Did you listen to the Indy Next broadcast? Like he's a lot
not.
more relaxed there.
Okay. Yeah.
You can tell like he was very
fair.
insightful. He was very on point. He was very like things happened and he had an insightful thing to say. I think when you put his face on the camera, he gets a little bit awkward. Um, but I think he's got a lot of potential. And I will tell you why. Because last year he gave us a little tour of the Dale Coyne Racing Garage in Detroit. And he has a charisma and a performance aspect about him where he can, he's leading us through, he's like introducing us to people, and it felt very like natural, like he was kind of meant for this. And I think he really wanted to have some role in the broadcast. Um, but he just reminded me a lot of like the first time I did a podcast, which was I don't know what to do with my hands. I don't know what to do with my face. I don't know when I'm supposed to say things or how much of my personality to show
Yeah.
because I'm kind of petrified. So I thought like we had a good beginning. I just like Jack Harvey, so like I know I'm coming at this from a full-on biased perspective. I just think he's a neat little guy. Like there's a lot of room for improvement. But for a guy who has not had the pit reporting gig before, I think he did good.
Yeah, I'll rewatch the Indy Next broadcast and look for those points because definitely, and I think he was dealing with some kind of issues with the producer because sometimes he'd
Yeah.
come on the mic and he's straight up yelling, and he's also on pit lane, right? So he's like yelling, but he's
Yeah.
like, but Jamie Little was like not yelling, but he's like screaming into the mic, and he's just yeah, it's
Yeah.
all good over here, and I couldn't hear what he was trying to say, and I was like, what is happening here? And yeah, it did seem that's a good point. It did seem like he came off nervous, where he didn't know how much to say and like where he's allowed to be cut off. So hopefully he grows into that because if he's really that insightful, like yeah, I want to hear from him.
Yeah. Yeah. When he is in the booth.
Put him in the
and
booth.
He's
I was
talking.
just saying, put him in the booth.
Get Townsend Bell out of
Townsend
there.
Bell out of
Put
there.
Townsend down on pit road. Like, yeah, he's great in the booth. And I think that he's got a lot of potential for what he can offer on the pit road, especially because he is an active. I like that they keep calling him an active driver. He's an Indy 500 only driver, but they
Yeah, but
keep
it
calling
counts.
him an active IndyCar driver. It counts, but it's very funny. I think he will have perspectives that are interesting. He will have things to say. I
like
just think he needs. They probably should have given him some training beforehand, and I'm sure that they did not because
Yeah.
why would you ever do that to anything? So I firmly believe he has potential. Again, like it was a little messy, but it was one of those things where I was like, I can tell that when you finally feel comfortable doing this, that you are going to say things that I'm gonna like take away very like and be like, that's really nice. I'm glad we have this fella here who says these things.
Next weekend, the one of the bigger races. I was gonna say the only race, but no, there's plenty of racing also happening. But the
Yep.
big one is gonna be NASCAR at Phoenix. That's right.
Yep.
Go there twice a year.
Xfinity and Cup this weekend?
Phoenix, baby.
And Arca?
Oh yes, Arkham.
Yeah.
But that should be, I
Phoenix.
believe, 3 p.m. Eastern because it is in Phoenix, so it's a couple hours behind and stuff. What's after Phoenix?
Oh.
Do they go on a West Coast swing?
I should know this because I've written so many stories this year of the fucking schedule.
Well, Elizabeth's looking for it. We
NASCAR.
do have Phoenix. Don't forget, Catherine Legg is also racing in the
Yes.
Cup Series race. First woman to do so in 7 years. Oh, Vegas then Homestead. Oh, interesting how they do that.
Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville, Darlington, Bristol.
If you guys want to watch a race, Homestead. That's a great
Diga.
race. 10-10 recommend. I love Homestead.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to quickly do that so Chap could edit easier the podcast. I have another question about the booth for your. Do you think 3 people's too much?
For a booth?
Yeah, because I think Formula One has 2, and they sometimes have like a guest. I think 2 is good.
I think
3 might be too much.
I think 3 people is a good number if they are all familiar with their roles.
Yeah.
I think this is a problem that the
Yeah.
Fox broadcast has not told them what they should be doing or like how they should be handling this. You should have the guy, the play-by-play. You should have him who can offer like, the live action of what's going on the track. You should also have a guy who, especially if you're gonna have a former driver, someone who intimately knows what's going on and can offer color. So you need the play-by-play and the color commentator. The third one is additional. I think the problem we're having here is that 2 drivers in a booth is too many, especially when it's guys who don't have other broadcasting experience to speak of. So when you get like a Clint Boyer or a Townsend Bell, it feels excessive. But if that person was in a different role, like if we had someone who knew everything about the rules, or we had a tech expert, or we had something there, a historian, like there's opportunities to like share information that I think goes a lot better. But because it just feels like we've got a superfluous person when they could just actually, I don't know, be a person who's interesting.
Yeah, I people are saying there's ones that work together. It's about chemistry. I just think you
Yeah.
really just need two, and you can sometimes bring in the third one if you like, if they're
Yeah.
on hand to talk
I
about something
like,
specific or something like that. Like, I don't know why we need three, because it always seems like
yeah,
it seems recently that they're either all fighting for the same amount of airspace. I feel like one
hmm
person should just understand they don't need to be talking as much as the second ones till like they
exactly.
are timed in. Maybe that's to your point, exactly what I'm just reiterating it a little bit differently.
hmm
Where two could just be main play by play in picture, and then we have a third
Yeah.
one that's maybe in there to give a break or during
Yeah.
yellow
I
flags or something
like
like that.
the idea of a third person being a rotating, or like we've got people that we can call into and be like, we need, like when you get Larry Mack on the phone, like we need a guy who offers some strategy perspective, or like someone who can tell us a technical thing about the car that is interesting, particularly with the hybrid system that we've got now. I think that would be like having a hybrid expert who can say, here's how they're using this. Fantastic. It's just when they have that third person who's just another guy, it doesn't work very well.
Like Bernie Collins on Sky F1 feed. Oh, I like that
Yeah.
whirlwind. Yeah, rules
I like
expert
Bernie
typing.
Collins. Ruth Buscombe also can have really insightful things to say sometimes.
Yeah, I think my issue is what I mentioned earlier is that everyone's too chummy. And it's
Yeah.
like, I get it. I think there's a way to be
Yeah.
chummy, but still tell me what's happening in this race.
I think that's kind of what I've been feeling. Like it doesn't feel like a professional broadcast at this point. It feels like I'm watching with a bunch of guys in a living room somewhere, which isn't like that's a fun vibe for a stream, like you've mentioned. It's a
Hmm.
fun vibe if you're watching a race with a bunch of dudes on a couch somewhere. But I don't want that from my actual broadcast. I want something I want it to be nutritious. I want to look at this and feel like I can understand what's going on in the race. I want to feel like I'm a part of it. I want to feel active. I want to feel involved. And I want to, when I look at the screen, tell exactly what is going on. So,
Yeah, Manny cast vibes. Yeah, there's a separate target audience for that kind of vibe,
yeah.
which I think right the Manny cast does and some other watch alongs and whatever. But yeah, for my broadcast, I like nutritious is honestly the best way to describe it,
Yeah.
especially as when fans of racing who watch it and know what's going on and like know the definitions still are like,
Yeah.
what is happening, what is going on this track, someone
Yeah.
please tell me. You're seeing it, I am not. I would like to
hmm
know.
So I wrote about this and I had a couple different people reach out, I think three, who were saying this was my first IndyCar race that I've ever watched because one was a NASCAR fan and the other two were F1 fans. And they saw the hype. They saw Will Buxton come over. They saw NASCAR. We've got another, I guess, competing sport on Fox now for motorsport. And they were like, I just thought I was stupid because I didn't understand what was happening. I was like, first of all, you should never tune in to a broadcast and feel stupid. You should be you should be able to be a complete novice and at least gather some understanding of what's going on. I don't watch any football except for the Super Bowl. And when I tune in, I still at least get a sense of what's going on there because they know that a lot of people like my dumb ass are tuning in for this singular event of the year. Um, there needs to be a little bit more, like not necessarily hand holding, but just explanation. If we've got anything going on track, we need to discuss it.
You want to hear something wild?
What's that?
This is not me being a shill. eNASCAR does a great job with their broadcasts. So it's like an
hmm
iRacing produced with like eNASCAR and stuff like that. So they have like a countdown to green pre-race show with three people, and they all like we're all chitter chattering. And I think IndyCar did this, but they did it. It was weird. They did it like an hour before the race, and then there was like a
Mm,
gap, and then it was the race. And I was like, why can't we do
mm,
this pre-show before, like literally before the race, and then whatever. Any hoodles. So they have that countdown to green whenever. They go over like what happened last week, blah blah. It's great, it's fun. They have bands, but I'm like I'm getting information. But then they have different people who are play by play, and they do this a lot in hockey as well. Where I'll have different people, and sorry, we watch a lot of Washington Capitals here, so like Alexa Landestoy, and then they have all those people back in the studio for Monumental Sports, and then we go to the play by play people who are at the game, and they'll give that stuff and what's going on. So it's different people doing like the fun stuff in between or whatever, and then we go to the play by play / the color people who are talking about what's happening on the ice or whatever. And eNASCAR does this really well. They have different people giving the play-by-play and the color commentary, which do a phenomenal job. And it's like really fun. And I actually know what's happening as someone who's never watched eNASCAR a full season before. So I'm just like, how did we figure this out here? But Fox Sports cannot professionally figure this out elsewhere. And I'm excited to see how when NASCAR goes to other networks, because I think they have Dale for Amazon and other stuff, and how that goes. I know Dale likes to break broadcasting rules though. So I'm kind of like, love Dale, but also like, for my broadcast, I don't know how that's gonna go.
Yeah, I'm interested. I am ready for Fox's NASCAR stint to be done. I'm good. I thought it was very funny actually that during the race they like kept promoting in the last laps the next 6 races are going to be on FS1. I was like, this is not. I don't know, that just doesn't feel like a good thing.
Sorry, Stack says biggest IndyCar grab, they just make a requirement where you must run a certain number of laps and you can't take them off immediately under yellow, blah, blah, blah. So there is a rule. There is a rule. Yeah. You have to run you have to, I think there's like
they'd run 10.
They have to run, but except here's the thing. I have the new rules up, and I thought the same thing. They do have a rule, 10. However, if there is an incident and like one of your laps can count as counted when you go through pit lane as well. So yeah, as soon as like you get into an accident, you rub against a wall, like you argy-bargy with someone, you can also go then and change your pit. So there's asterisks to the rule, but there is a rule.
Yeah, but you still have to run 10 on the alternate, because we had this problem at the start of the race where I think Pato or someone pitted at the very beginning, and they came off the green tires and had to come back in and put them back on again later to get the maximum or the minimum requirement for their laps on that tire.
Yeah, so there is a rule to Elizabeth's point.
Yeah. So the rule, it's just a very limited number of laps.
Amazon TNT have more confidence in. I don't know, because Amazon just used the Fox broadcast when they do their practice and qualifying. So I don't know if they're just going to keep using Fox Productions. So interesting enough, someone complimented the CW broadcast. So CW is NASCAR Productions. Fun fact. And it looks like they know a little bit more of what they're doing because it's people who talk about NASCAR, blah blah blah. And then IndyCar still uses IMS Productions with Fox, and then Fox just I guess for Cup just uses Fox and not NASCAR Productions. So it's like there's just a whole thing. There's a whole flow chart of how it all works. Yeah. We'll see how it goes from there.
I like the CW broadcast.
Yeah, I like it.
The quality of the video is not the best. I am in one of the markets that is filmed on a potato, but the booth is good, and it feels like it's actually informative. I feel like I get excited and interested in what's going on in a way that I don't with NASCAR.
I feel like Parker's had to have lessons in broadcasting because he brings a good, he doesn't talk too much. He then brings a good air of professionalism and like chumminess, which I like.
That's, yeah.
It's
the friendliness within like a corporate facility where it's like you're buddies with your coworker, but you're not going to go drinking together. Yeah. I think it's a good, like, you just feel comfortable around this person. So he did a great job. I think he's a great get.
Yeah. Really crushed it. The CW does fun. Yeah. I like listening to that booth because I know what's going on. I don't feel like they have a stick too far up their butt and like I have to be a pure racing fan, but I know what's going on and stuff. So Chatos, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Don't forget NASCAR at Phoenix. And then we will be obviously streaming 11 a.m. per usual on a Tuesday, but then we'll have Formula One. Formula One comes back, baby.
Sebring's coming next week.
Who's excited? St. Petersburg went to Russia. Now we're going to Florida with F1. We're so stoked.
Hyped.
So hyped.
Hype.
Yeah, we're Sebring, St. Patrick's Day week. Well, I know St. Patrick's is Monday, but some people celebrate it on Saturday, which is me. Trade in my Polish passport for an Irish one. Respect the bumps.
Also, if you, I don't know if there is any way to watch us with the Formula E influencer races like the next couple of days.
Is it?
I've been trying to figure out if there's watch-alongs or not or anything. Because they finally started, like, I've seen it on my timeline on Instagram. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll just hear about it at the end.
Formula E influencer race. What is it? Okay, if I Google Formula E influencer race and the first website that that comes up is not Formula E, fix your
it's
SEO.
Sagittarius.
God damn it. What is going on? Fix it. I've only seen videos from Cleo Abram with McLaren. Oh, and maybe some from Tom Felton, but I haven't seen
I've seen the Tom Felton ones.
I don't know if I've seen other ones, which is interesting. Wait, this article doesn't even tell me when it is.
It's called Evo Sessions. That's why I have no fucking idea what's going on. March 5th to 6th. 2 20-minute sessions. Content from the event will be shared on social media in real time. But it won't be competitive and no times will be released. The idea is to give outsiders a genuine insight into what it takes to become. So never mind. Don't fucking bother. Don't watch it.
Wild.
Yeah.
Well,
don't bother.
Maybe something happened. Sorry, YouTube's asking Catherine Legg and Cup your thoughts. Great.
10 out of 10.
What other thoughts? What thoughts does someone else need to have about this situation?
Catherine Legg doing all the things is perfect. I have to give a little shout out to Elf and the activation that they had last year at the Indy 500 because that was the first time in my life I discovered the benefits of blush because they had a little makeover station and I came with like a full face of makeup and they're like, the only thing you're missing is some blush. And I was like, I don't do that. I'm goth. Like, you know, I'm always pale. And then they put it on me and I was like, holy shit, I look alive. Like I have shape to my face. So life-changing ever since then I actually have used it.
To Chap's point, if BJ McLeod live fast motorsport, if she finishes the race, it's a winning effort.
Yeah. I think it's more of just get experience, do some things, add to her resume. And I have no problems with that.
I have no problems with Catherine Legg. I have no problems with her trying out new things. People buy race seats all the time. I'm not saying she is doing that. I'm saying other mediocre people / men buy race seats all the time. We don't complain. And she's Catherine Legg. So
yeah, she's cool. I don't know if Alpha is sponsoring her again.
I don't think so.
But I think she's cool anyway.
Yeah, let's not put her up on a pedestal of unattainable goals. Absolutely. I don't think she's going to be winning Phoenix. If she does, great. If she doesn't, also great. Like,
if she finishes the race, that's probably going to be what we can hope for.
Yeah. Chap says she finishes 5 laps down. That's even a win. Hey, she's got to survive. That's step one.
Yeah. She's just got to get through this.
She's sponsored by Droplight. I have no idea what that is. I guess I'll Google it later.
That sounds fake.
All right, chat. Thank you so much for hanging out. We'll be back next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Elizabeth, should anyone be reading anything, knowing anything, doing anything for you this week?
You should be. I have several posts from this week on the Deadly Passions Terrible Joy Substack. It is Deadly Passions release day as well. So if you are familiar with the Chevy Corvair, one of the most hated cars in America, unsafe at any speed, activist, etc., this is about how Chaparral down in Texas basically saved their asses in all of the lawsuits that came about. And I also have a story for that on Planet F1 coming up because Juan Manuel Fangio and Sterling Moss actually testified in defense of the Corvair. So all the goods, go check those out. No stream or no Twitch for me. I do have my little link tree that you guys can go check out, which has my YouTube and Planet F1 and all my writing.
And all our articles. Yeah. What am I doing? Probably nothing. I wasn't going to watch Phoenix, but now I'm going back and forth because Catherine's going to be straight. It's going to be racing. I'm like, should I just do a watch along for Phoenix? It won't be as long as COTA. It won't be as bad, as painful. Maybe it will. We don't need to go to Phoenix twice. That's it.
No, we don't.
That's my hot take. Everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it, whether you're watching on the Twitch, on the YouTube. This is Elizabeth Blackstock. I am Ash Vandelay. Elizabeth, motorsport journalist. I'm just calling myself a motorsport analyst because why not? I'm just taking it. No one's stopping me.
Fuck it.
Fuck it. And we are here for all your motorsports yapping and opinions. We'll see you next Tuesday at 11. Drink water, take your meds, go outside, touch some grass, birds of government drones, support local, including our racetracks. Support your local racetracks. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.
Bye.
Have a great rest of your week. It's only Tuesday. Oh, I almost said it's Monday. Oof. What a day. What a day.